Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday evening, our Tech Tuesday. I know we're a little thin on the ground tonight because of Eskom issues all over the country, but thanks for those who are here and have been able to make it, and everybody else will get the recording. So we've been covering the last 2 weeks on one of those little things that we don't often think about that require special nutrition as well, namely our eyes and our ears. Two parts of the body that I know I take for granted, because especially my eyes, you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes and you can see. Sometimes things are a little bit hazy if you need to wear glasses and are short-sighted, like I am. So fortunately, I don't need to use them for this sort of work. But when driving and that kind of thing, I definitely do need glasses. But I can say that through the nutrition that we're using, I have noticed a significant improvement in my eyes over the years, and I can now comfortably walk and run and pretty much everything without worrying about using my glasses. Yes, sometimes things are a little bit hazy in the distance, but I can still see well enough. And that, in my opinion, is purely because of correct nutrition. So I'm going to just share my screen over here and recap the one slide from last week. Do that and do this. Okay. So some of the causes of hearing loss are environmental damage. In other words, loud noises. So people who work in factories and go to rock concerts and all that kind of thing, or even working at an airport, specifically the guys working in and around jet aircraft, and also people on shooting ranges. Those are all parts of environmental damage. According to the World Health Organization, 1.1 billion people worldwide are at risk for hearing loss due to serious threat posed by exposure to recreational noise. And the implications of hearing loss are much greater than most people think. In a 2013 study, scientists tracked overall cognitive abilities, including concentration, memory, and planning skills of nearly 2,000 older adults. And who would have thought that nutrition for the eyes and the ears could affect things like your concentration and memory, etc. After 6 years, those who began the study with hearing loss severe enough to interfere with conversation were 24% more likely than those with normal hearing to see their cognitive abilities diminish. That's quite a scary stat. Essentially, the researchers stated, hearing loss seemed to speed up age-related cognitive decline. In other words, people losing their minds, quite honestly. If you are one of the 26 million Americans impacted by noise-induced hearing loss, otherwise known as NIHL, or one of the 25 million Americans with chronic tinnitus, in other words, ringing in the ears, you understand the debilitating impact on your hearing and quality of life. And I understand that people watching this are suffering from this very real thing, including, or especially the tinnitus. NIHL can be caused by a one-time exposure to an intense impulse sound, such as an explosion, or by continuous exposure to loud sounds over an extended period of time, such as generated in a mine or manufacturing plant. Recreational activities such as target shooting and hunting, motorcycle racing, and attending loud concerts can also put you at risk for NIHL. Experts are especially concerned with the dramatic increase in the level of noise that children are exposed to in the age of iPods, because you put these little things in your ears and they crank it up so that you can hear it quite clearly on the other side of the room. You imagine what's going on in their ears. And I hear that sometimes with the taxis that drive past my office. where they're driving past in the road in front of me, and their noise is so loud, their music is so loud, that the tools hanging in my laboratory, hanging on the wall, literally vibrate. You can imagine what's happening to the people inside that vehicle. Sound is measured in units called decibels, and exposure to high decibel sound damage high decibel sound damages hearing by damaging hair cells. Pardon me. Because inside the ear are a lot of fine little hairs that channel that music or that sound down, and then that hits the tympanic membrane, which is like the top of a drum, and that then vibrates against a couple of little bones inside the middle of the ear, which then leads to the brain picking up the signals and creating the sound that we are familiar with. So when exposed to loud noise, the hair cells release a burst of oxidative stress, which causes their eventual death. And these are just some of the things that we are exposed to on a daily basis. And your fridge gives off 45 decibels. Normal conversation, like what we're having here, is about 60. Noise from heavy city traffic is 85. Your motorcycles are 95. Possibly certain makes of motorcycles are louder than that, whereas others, interesting enough, are extremely quiet. An MP3 player is at maximum volume, gives off about 105 decibels. Sirens, as in police and emergency vehicles, are about 120. And firecrackers and firearms are about 150. So age-related deterioration or age-related hearing loss, with a fancy word of presbycusis, we don't have to worry about that fancy word, affects around about 40% of the elderly population and is becoming more prevalent. That's quite scary. And possibly because more people are becoming elderly. Remember back in the way early dark ages, when life was a lot more dangerous than it is now, people didn't live as long as they do now. 40 was considered almost ancient, and 80 plus was almost unheard of. So people died a lot younger, and therefore probably didn't have quite the same issues as they do these days. Presbycusis refers to hearing loss associated with the cochlear degenerative process of aging. Cochlea is one of the little bones sitting right inside your ear. Because it's associated with cellular senescence, it progresses slowly and may not be noticed. I don't know if you've ever listened to sound. If you're sitting, I used to be a sound engineer at our one church in Port Elizabeth when I lived there. And you'd have the one side of the church saying, put the sound down, and the other side saying, push it up. But I found quite interestingly that if you kept it at a relatively low decibel level, just slowly increase the sound levels, you could relatively quickly get to quite a high sound without people actually noticing. It's a little bit like the proverbial frog sitting inside a pot of water that boils. If you chuck them in the boiling water, they supposedly jump straight out. If you pop them into a pot of cold water and bring it to the boil, the theory is it won't jump out. In practice, it will jump out, but the water's got to get significantly warmer before it jumps, whereas previously it would just automatically jump. So sound that is also high and brought down very slowly, you probably are not going to notice the difference until you sort of leaning forward and going, what's that? Can't hear anymore, because you don't notice the changes. So there is a lack of understanding of this disease process. So what I've just explained now is really just my theory and my understanding of how it works. At present, clinicians can only use family history, or the history of onset and progression, and the results of audiometric testing to determine the degree of impairment, to estimate the potential for future hearing loss. And I have noticed in a couple of our hospitals that they're now bringing in audiologists to newborn babies to test their hearing virtually from day one. Optimal monitoring and management, including the use of hearing aids for sound amplification, can help maintain the quality of life for many patients. So some of the beneficial nutrients. Other findings indicate that certain nutrients are associated with positive hearing health outcomes. Potassium, which is a mineral found in things like bananas and potatoes and black beans, plays a large role in the way that the inner ear functions and converts sounds into signals for the brain to interpret. Regular intake can help you maintain your current level of hearing. And this is according to Dr. Sharif Tadros of the International Center for Hearing and Speech Research. And it was a published case study in the Europe PubMed Central. Dr. George Chambord of the Chambord Hearing and Allergy Institute reports that the zinc in almonds, cashews, and dark chocolate can be an effective treatment of tinnitus, with hearing, ringing, or buzzing without an external sound source. And magnesium is believed to combat free radicals, which is emitted during loud noises, and act as a barrier protecting inner ear hair cells. And I did pick up one thing. There was an article that I'd read somewhere along the line that showed that tests that they'd done on monkeys, I think it was, that if they had high magnesium, didn't react quite as sharply to a sudden loud noise. And you sitting in a room and somebody suddenly claps behind you, and you jump rapidly because, oh, and things happen quickly over there. And I used to have that problem. And since I've been using our magnesium, I've noticed that I don't jump quite as readily to a sudden loud noise. Folic acid has also been shown to possibly slow the onset of hearing loss, and that is found in vitamin B. Blood flow is restricted by homocysteine, which is an amino acid, so folic acid works to metabolize it to keep the blood flow regulated, which I found very interesting. And according to Dr. Jane Durga of the Nestle Research Center in Lausanne, Switzerland, because the inner ear relies on a regular flow of blood, folate is extremely important. Foods high in folic acid include spinach, broccoli, and asparagus. How much spinach and broccoli have you had today? So we always hear about nutrition, and we know that doctors in general are not taught a lot of nutrition. However, they are taught a little bit about malnutrition. And malnutrition is simply your body not getting the nutrients that it needs. It doesn't have to be somebody, if we remember years ago, I think it was up in Ethiopia, where they used to show pictures of the starving children with they were literal skin and bone, but a big belly. And that was known as kwashiorkor, and that is caused by malnutrition. And surprisingly enough, you don't have to look like that to suffer from malnutrition. A lot of people in today's life do suffer from malnutrition because they're not getting the correct foods in their diet. So conversely, that malnutrition negatively affects the human body. In an examination of 2,193 participants between the ages of 16 to 23, they found that malnutrition not only stunts anatomical development in children, but slows inner ear development. So that is a crucial time period. And what do 16-year-olds generally eat or not eat? What do 16-year-olds generally do for fun? Earpods, music concerts, motorbike riding, etc. So can we see where the problem is developing? Malnourished children were observed as being twice as likely to develop hearing loss as young adults compared to their well-nourished peers. Further, the study acknowledges that stunting often begins before birth, which is why it is so important for the mother to be taking the correct nutrition before conception. A malnourished woman who is pregnant or nursing is likely to pass on any deficiency she may have to her child. And this happens a lot in moms who have children fairly close together. And we're talking, I know it's dangerous, but we're talking 9 months to a year apart. They have not had time for their bodies to recoup all the losses of nutrition that the last baby took out of them. And one of the more common things there is the omega-3 levels in the brain. Hindered inner ear development in utero, which means in the womb, is caused by malnutrition, or caused by malnutrition contributes to a higher risk of hearing loss than does malnutrition in vivo. So individuals with type 2 diabetes also are more likely to develop hearing loss than their non-diabetic counterparts. Subjects with prediabetes, those who have elevated blood sugar levels, but not elevated enough for a diagnosis of diabetes, also have a 30% increased risk. So type 2 diabetes, who are the most common people to have that? Those who are overweight. Why are they overweight? Because they're not getting the correct nutrition. So can we see the link as it's starting to come together? Prediabetes, in my opinion, is just as bad as diabetes because everything is there, but you're just not quite at that level, but it is so borderline as to be close enough to worry about the same issues. The study authors attribute the higher risk to damaged nerves and blood vessels of the inner ear, which is a consequence of having type 2 diabetes for an extended period of time. And there, obviously, we're talking years. And we know that nerves and blood vessels, specifically the smaller ones, are affected more. And I see that specifically in our amputees. They lose their legs because of the impact of the damage to the nerves and the blood vessels in the limbs of the body. So most especially the lower limbs, but obviously also the inner ear and the eye. Though rarely acknowledged, diet has a lot to do with the auditory system. As I said, we take it for granted. Adding just a few foods to your daily diet and paying attention to the nutrients that your diet is missing may significantly impact hearing over the long term. Nutrition is vital to every aspect of health. So how can we improve our hearing with age? Lessons can be learned from the literature on lifestyle and general health. A model for successful aging included 3 main components: avoidance of disease and disability, maintenance of cognitive and physical function, and active engagement with life. So some of these things we don't really have a lot of control over, but as my elderly patients often tell me, don't get old because age is not for sissies. And I always respond with, I'm told that one should stay as young as possible for as long as possible. And this is what they're saying over here as well. If we can effectively manage or prevent hearing loss, we can reduce social isolation, which is avoidance of disease and hearing loss, improve communication, in other words, engagement with life, and potentially influence cognitive function, high cognitive and physical function, thus leading to more successful aging. And I think 2 prime examples for us right now is Jerry Brasfield, who is 82, 81, somewhere in about there, and Charlie Bolton, who is also around 81. I think they are pretty good as far as the aging part is concerned, because they're both still very active and as far as I know, don't suffer from any issues with sight or hearing. So lifestyle factors like nutrition, physical activity, smoking, etc., also have a significant influence on aging. And we have full control over those things. In general, studies have demonstrated that diets inadequate in micronutrients, high in caloric intake, and high in dietary lipids increase the risk or odds of hearing loss. On the contrary, diets rich in micronutrients, in particular those with antioxidant properties, low in caloric intake, low in dietary lipids, in particular saturated fat, in other words, junk fats, and low in sugar, reduce the risk or odds of hearing loss. In summary, successful hearing with age does not start with the ear, but instead starts with health choices that influence our ability to successfully age. Hearing loss and other sensory functions can greatly influence aging and are, in turn, greatly influenced by our lifestyle and general health. And in my opinion, it is never too late to start a good, healthy life or lifestyle and diet. So some of the foods that can help lower your risk of hearing loss are things like fish, because fish contains little fat and is full of omega-3, omega-6, and other essential minerals your body needs. It is also rich in vitamin D, which strengthens the bones inside your ears and helps prevent otosclerosis, which is an abnormal bone growth inside the ear that causes hearing loss. Legumes such as beans and peas contain a lot of zinc, which is a crucial mineral that supports your immune system and boosts your hearing. Bananas, as a popular superfood, should be consumed every day to stay healthy. They are rich in potassium, which helps maintain your hearing as you age. Broccoli contains fiber and vitamin C and can stop the formation of free radicals in your body, which can break down your cells, resulting in several diseases. It can also help to prevent the risk of hearing-related diseases, improving your overall health. And broccoli is one of the cruciferous vegetables. Dark chocolate, please note, dark chocolate, not milk chocolate. So the darker the chocolate, in other words, the more cocoa in it, the better it is for you. Dark chocolate is full of antioxidants and vitamins that aid in digestion while boosting your immune system and metabolism. It increases the level of magnesium in your body, enabling good circulation and healthier hearing. The trouble with milk chocolate is that there's too much sugar in it. So while chocolate in its original raw state is good for you, like anything that has been processed and had too much sugar added to it, it then becomes bad for you. Garlic has multiple health benefits. It is excellent for your heart and is extremely effective in lowering cholesterol. It also reduces inflammation in your ears and reduces blood pressure to promote better circulation and improved hearing. Whole grains can help maintain nerve function and protect the hair cells in the inner ear while they are exposed to loud noise. They're also rich in magnesium, which helps improve blood flow to your ears. And if you're not able to get the original whole grain, please use the whole grain oils, because they also are just as effective. Healthy eating is key to good hearing health. Consuming a diet rich in nutrients, especially those low in fat and sugar, and with antioxidant properties, will boost your hearing health and reduce your risk of heart attacks, cancer, and other chronic ailments, and in turn, improve your quality of life. So just some things that we use in Neolife that can assist, things like vitamin A and D, which is necessary for night vision and is shown to help reduce risk of hearing loss by 47% compared to the control group. Vitamin B co, or sustained release, that plays a role in reducing the risk of macular degeneration and helps promote healthy blood flow in the retina. Poor folic acid and vitamin B12 status may impair the myelination of the neurons in the cochlear nerves and is correlated to poor results in hearing testing. In other words, you need more vitamin B for that. Vitamin C, in a sustained release, a large-scale clinical study demonstrated that women using vitamin C for 10 years or more experienced a 64% reduction in the risk, of developing cataracts. And lab studies show that vitamin C and carotenoids may help to preserve hearing function. Carotenoids absorb light and safeguard against the oxidative stress or effects of UV rays and are present at high levels in the retina. Several large-scale studies have shown that these carotenoids may help reduce the risk of macular degeneration and cataracts. Lab studies show that vitamin C and carotenoids may help preserve hearing function. Calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D. The eye has high metabolic demand, which over time can result in inflammation and cell loss, giving rise to visual decline. Vitamin D has been linked to protection against age-related macular degeneration. And it also expands blood vessels and improves blood circulation to the hair cells to help prevent their death. Vitamin D helps strengthen the tiny bones in the ears, and we're talking minute, and helps reduce hearing loss by reducing osteopenia, which is the thinning of bones. Vitamin E has been shown to reduce the progression of age-related macular degeneration and cataract formation, especially in combination with other antioxidants like carotenoids, and has also been shown to help reduce the risk of hearing loss by 14% versus the control group. Omega-3 relieves dry eyes by promoting moisture in eyes and is shown to prevent or slow the rate of progression of age-related eye diseases and diabetic retinopathy. Studies have shown that dietary intervention with omega-3 can prevent or delay the development of age-related hearing loss. And then zinc is highly concentrated in the eye and plays a vital role in bringing vitamin A from the liver to the retina in order to produce melanin, which is a protective pigment in the eyes. Higher levels of zinc may interfere with copper absorption, which is why it's also recommended to include this mineral as well. In other words, copper. So a multi-mineral is a good idea, and it helps to improve recovery after sudden hearing loss. That is the end of that little story. Oops, let's just stop the sharing over here. There's my picture there for a second. Right, we've got about 7 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions or comments before I stop the recording? Yes, Linda.
Okay, two questions. I hope I remember it. Okay, the potassium, is that mainly protection of the hairs more than the cochlea?
Correct.
Hairs.
Correct.
Okay. Now, if I say I have hearing loss, if I say that I was not exposed to loud noise, I didn't attend clubs and discos and things. I was a little bit of come from a very conservative background. And I would say my loudest noise that I experienced was basically when I joined the Pentecostal church. I was actually complaining about the loud music.
You're a baby.
For about 10 years.
Sorry,
and that was yeah. So would you say that my hearing loss could most likely be a cochlear problem rather than the ears? Because it's only the last, say, about 2 years, last 10 years, more or less, that I would say that, you know, there was a bit noisy in the chest. Not that bad, but too noisy for me. I didn't like it.
Yes. And obviously, could also be, not that you're old, but it could also be age-related, that it's coming along where the little bones and joints do start to lose their flexibility. So as we go along, from the age of 25, actually, we're starting to lose bone density and we're starting to lose flexibility as well as we go on from there. So that would also be one of the causes of the problems.
I think my bones were never good. That's why from a young age I started with cramping and whatever. And I had 3
Yes.
children. I didn't know about Kelmac and things like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so now I was just having a day because I started eating more bananas because of potassium, which is it's good, you know, bananas are healthy. So I was
Yes.
just wondering whether it's the hairs or the cochlea. No, I would never really know, but it's most likely maybe that it's the cochlea.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Sean.
Not a
Thanks.
problem.
It's a good talk.
Right. Ansi, I don't know if you can hear me. You seem to be having problems with connection there. Okay, I'm going to stop